And we're back on Second Street talking about problems in the education sector. We're just chatting with Stephen Reich about some of the problems around literacy and how the K-12 system is not doing a good job with making sure people can read properly. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk with Melanie Bennet, who's been doing some interesting work looking into what teachers are being trained to do. Melanie is an investigative journalist with Juno News, and she joins us now to talk about her most recent column. Melanie, thank you for taking a few minutes to chat today. I mean, this one's pretty surprising when you consider some of the very serious concerns that people have with the direction of the education system. And then you look at what the Waterloo Oxford School Division in Ontario is actually putting forward to their teachers as training materials. Um, it you've got a slide here in your article. It says unpacking whiteness, and it's saying that perfectionism, objectivity, I mean, these are concepts that are connected to whiteness. This just seems very strange and bizarre in terms of content that teachers are being taught about, when the problem is that kids just can't do basic things like reading. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you uncovered?
Well, I just want to do a slight correction. It was the Waterloo Region District School Board, and the high school is a Waterloo Oxford High School. They delivered
Oh,
a training. It was 2 years ago in 2023, uh, and it was delivered to a group of equity. It's like a equity department sort of training. And this kind of training is not unique to Waterloo. It is across Ontario. It varies differently board to board, but it's using the principles of whiteness, which is rooted in something called critical race theory, which your listeners may or may not have heard of. And so
mhm.
this training under the concept of whiteness is all of these constructs that are European, these ideas that are seen to be European, are put in a category of white supremacy, which must be dismantled and disrupted. Uh,
Mhm.
so although it's 2 years old, this stuff is absolutely still continuing through the education. That's part of the investigations that I've been working on. So I have a lot of freedom of information requests trying to get some of these documents to show the public exactly how it's advanced in the last 2 years.
I got a lot of questions for you. One concern is that the term white supremacy, I mean, that's a very serious term and allegation to be leveling at anyone. It certainly brings to mind, I think, for a lot of people, visions of the Deep South in the US, people walking around in the white hoods, pretty horrible things. How is this casually being thrown into a conversation about the education system in Canada? I mean, obviously, we're not teaching anything like, say the KKK would be espousing in the US. How did we get to this point where this term is just being casually taught to teachers at this school?
Well, because under the framing, under this educational scholarship framing, white supremacy is not the KKK, although it can be part of it. It's really this idea of the systemic, uh, dominant culture or hegemonic culture, as it would be, the lingo would be. And so things
Mhm.
you talked about perfectionism, you talked about being on time. We've seen this in the USA come out frequently over the last few years. And so the things that would be associated with European culture that is considered white, and and that would be the supremacy. And so all of our systems are dominated by the supremacy of the European culture, and that is racist because we're not making space. So I'm just steel manning the position here. So we're not making space for
Mhm.
other races, other cultures, and therefore we must. Like I keep saying, disrupting and dismantling. You'll see this all over the education system, this white supremacy or just European culture.
So this type of content that you found at the school board, I think a lot of people would be surprised by it. How common is it to see this type of material being taught to teachers at these in-service days, rather than, as we were just talking about, we got this problem with kids not being able to read. What shouldn't that be the type of focus, or is this sort of just a one-off type of problem that you've identified?
Oh, it's endemic because I'll use a technical term here because I think listeners need to understand this term. It's called culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, which is mandated by the Ministry of Education. Now, this is basically critical race theory, and it's also some Marxist Paulo Freirean theory, but it's required by the Ministry of Education to adapt this concept. And so there's all kinds of training at PD days that can contain whiteness and white supremacy, but also other what we call intersectional theories, right? So we might talk about gender theory, we might talk about Islamophobia and all these things that are really rooted in a sort of like very far left social justice ideology. So I would say it's pretty endemic, and I hope to uncover a lot of that and share with the public.
Okay, when we come back, I want to pick your brain on solutions and talk about maybe how you address this in the public education system so that maybe teachers are learning about things like how to make sure kids can read properly. We'll be back in just a moment.